Good morning. This is a review for Theater 200, the final exam. If you are in my 8 o'clock class, your exam is tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning from 8 o'clock until 10:30. If you were in my 9:30 to 10:45 class, that exam is on Thursday from 8 o'clock until 10:30. I posted a study guide for you, or emailed it to you rather, and if you notice, it is basically a repeat of all of the previous guides. Um, you have this information, you've been tested on it, you still have your tests, I hope. Review them. Uh, that will be extremely helpful. But there are a few things that I will focus on specifically. So, like I said in the email, the exam, the final will be between 30 and 40 questions. Some of them will be multiple choice, others will be short answer. So I will have to pare all of those tests down, to some very specific questions. I'm going to talk about what those specific areas, what those questions are going to be referring to after I do a quick review of the information that we went over on Tuesday and Thursday of last week. This is chapter 8 and chapter 9. Chapter 8 is about decentralization and subsidization in theater. And this covers theater in Europe, specifically in England, and theater, of course, in the United States. Okay, first, post-war British theater. This is theater after World War II. Um, the government recognized the need for art support, and in 1948, um, I don't know if that was the start time or if that was a time when money became more available from this fund, which was the Arts Council of Great Britain. This body was formed to make the decisions about who got the money, who received the money. Um, this these funds, this effort by the government helped to establish three national theaters in England. One of them grew out of the Stratford Festival, which was an annual event for many, many years, and that was the Royal Shakespeare Company. And the Royal Shakespeare Company had a very significant presence in London. Uh, it did not have a permanent home at first. Eventually, it did. The other theater that we mentioned was or is the National Theater. Now, the National Theater is England's theater. It is first of all, the facility is amazing. It is supposed to have the most elaborate theatrical facility in the country. And as well, the performance schedule is really quite robust. They do 20 productions a year, and that's totaling 1,000 performances throughout a year. 1,000 performances. Here's where I want to be specific. A production involves the director, the actor, the designers, everybody who creates the production. The performance involves the audience. So we have, or we are talking about 1,000 opportunities for an audience to come in and see these productions. In addition to the productions that are at the National Theater, which is on the south side of the Thames, the River Thames, South Bank. Um, They have performances throughout England, and as well, they have taken or brought their performances to Broadway, to New York. One we mentioned was Matilda, the musical, and the other is War Horse. I showed you a video, a clip of that amazing production. That is from the National Theatre. The third theater that we mentioned in England was English Stage, and that was formed in 1956. Now, moving over to the US, when we talk about decentralization over here, we are talking about the formation of regional theaters. Regional theaters. These are theaters in different parts of the US. The first regional theater was formed in 1947. And what's really fantastic and interesting about the regional theater movement um, is that it was led by women. The woman, the first regional theater was formed in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, by Margot Jones, a theater director who had recently directed a production of Tennessee Williams' play The Glass Menagerie. Now, at this time, we've mentioned Tennessee Williams. We talked about him during the last test. Um, he was an unknown, but she directed a really successful production of his play on Broadway. Well, she was instrumental in forming that first regional theater. And from there, also, it's important to note that this is private money that supported these early regional theaters. Private money, because the money from the Federal Theater Project dried up in 1939. So from that point forward, theater in these areas was pretty much independent. These were independent regional theaters, supported, self supporting. Americans were very into supporting themselves in terms of theater. They had to be self supporting. In 1965, however, the federal government stepped in once again with the formation of the National Endowment for the Arts. This came from our tax dollars. Early on, per capita, a penny per capita, got up towards 65 cents at one point. Um, but the money that exists was for the support of arts organizations, not just theater, arts organizations, all of them throughout the U.S. Um, All right. In addition to decentralization moving away from New York, within the city of New York, the need was there to move away from Broadway because there were two things that led to the formation of what we now know as off Broadway. The first, of course, is the cost of producing a play on Broadway, very prohibitive. The second was the popularization or the increasing popularity of television. It was easier for people to stay at home and watch television. Um, that was great competition. So smaller houses, literally smaller open spaces were converted into theaters. These became off Broadway houses. As off Broadway houses became more popular, um, off Broadway houses were formed for the very same reason. These were truly independent theaters as well. They were supported by private money and offered an opportunity for smaller productions, smaller companies to perform there. Um, the the way the breakdown of the Broadway, off Broadway, and off Broadway theater has to do with the number of seats. In a Broadway house, you have 500 or more. In an off-Broadway house, you have from 100 to 499. And in an off-Broadway space, you have up to 99 seats. I'll be back.